Hey there, it's Joe Amber. I wanted to make this video to first of all say thank you to everybody who has called, texted, or sent good positive vibes and prayers while we battled COVID-19. And I'm sorry if I didn't respond right away to your messages. To some of your messages. I just know that I did receive them, and they really did mean a lot to us. I did have a hard time responding right away at the time because one, I was really sick, and two, it was hard for me at the time to talk about kind of what I was going through because it gave me really bad anxiety, and I would have anxiety attacks talking about it or thinking about it. So at the time I was trying to think, positive thoughts, and I was just trying to really reduce stress because it was just a really hard thing to go through. So I wanted to also make this video to talk about a little bit about what we went through. I know I'm seeing a lot more people going through it now. A lot of people posting on my timeline that they have tested positive or they've had loved ones that are going through it and loved ones that have passed away. And I do want to say that my heart goes out to all of you. I hope you feel better soon, and my prayers are going out to especially if you've lost a loved one. My prayers are going out to you. I know that it's a really hard time for us to be dealing with, and I just hope that you are able to find some sort of comfort in this time. And if you're scared of COVID or you really are sick of hearing about it, I would just recommend not listening to this video at all because I do want to talk about our experience and what we went through. I want to bring some awareness to those of you who think that it's a scam or it's not real, because I know there's a lot of people who think that, and it was not an easy experience. I kind of even get like chills just thinking about what it is that we did go through. So for those of you who don't know, Nick and I were both sick, very sick with COVID. My mom was here. She got sick too. She didn't get tested, but she was sick. So, I mean, most likely she had it as well. Nick and I both got tested, and we both tested positive. Nick was the first one with symptoms. He started feeling symptoms on a Friday, and then my symptoms began the following Monday. He told me he was feeling kind of weird, but he wasn't really sick, like really sick, until after my symptoms had started. So, I mean, there was no way for me to really kind of keep away or to distance ourselves at that time. So it was like we both kind of got it roughly around the same time. And when my symptoms started, it started on a Monday, and it was Monday night, and the weather was kind of cold. So I was thinking that, it could have been the weather, but I started with chills. I could not warm up, like no matter what I did. I got under the blanket. I took a hot bath. Usually taking a bath will, heat up your body. And I got out of the bath and I was still freezing. And I got under the blankets, and I went to bed, and I was starting to feel a little worn down. But the biggest thing that I noticed were the chills. The next couple of days, I started feeling achy. My body was achy, but it wasn't really severe. I was thinking that maybe I could have had just a cold because I was sneezing and I had a runny nose, and I didn't know that sneezing was a COVID symptom. Everything that I had heard was mostly like you started with like a fever and some chills, and I did have the chills, but I didn't have a fever. So But so I was thinking maybe it was a cold. Nick was already in bed. Like, he was in bed for over a week straight, just in the bed, not really getting up, unless, you know, we were helping at the time to like fix him some soup and stuff like that. But the longer he was kind of bedridden, the more concerned I was. My symptoms started on a Monday. He called his doctor on Tuesday because, you know, to get tested, and he wasn't able to get tested until Thursday. And then he didn't get his results until that Monday. And the following Monday, so it was like a whole week after my symptoms started, that he got his results. So with that, his results came back, and they were positive. And so I already knew I had it. I had been feeling by that following Monday. So 7 days after my symptoms started was when it hit me the worst. So I want to say the symptoms started on a Monday, and then the following Saturday was I woke up and I was just in the most intense pain with my body aches and my joints. It was like on a scale of 1 to 10, the pain was like a 9. I was taking as much Tylenol as I could take to where it didn't cause liver damage. And even after taking all that Tylenol, the Tylenol would wear off and I was still hurting. So it was probably like the muscle aches where it was excruciating. And I remember there were times where I was just rolling around on the bed and I was just praying like for God to take it away, because it was just so bad. And I was really emotional. So all of the positive messages and texts and the people that responded to my Instagram post really, really helped, helped to make me feel better. So not only did I have the body aches, and but I also started having the shortness of breath. I could not take a deep breath without feeling like I needed to cough. So I had the dry cough as well. And I couldn't walk from the bedroom to the living room without breathing hard, like feeling like I needed to breathe. And it was hard for me to do that. So by Sunday, I think it was like 8 or 9, or the 10th day after my symptoms started, that following Sunday, I went to the ER because I am asthmatic and I was having a hard time breathing. So I did go to the ER. My blood oxygen levels were fine, but I was tested positive for pneumonia in my lungs. And that was finally actually when they did give me the COVID test, and then the COVID test later on came back positive as well. But I did have pneumonia in my lungs, which was pretty painful. And so I was prescribed some antibiotics and some steroids, which helped a whole lot. By the time I finished with those, my coughing had kind of subsided, but I still have some lingering symptoms. I'm having like a little bit of chest pain still that comes and goes. And I'm having like pretty heavy vertigo. So like the vertigo is, I get really dizzy a lot. And I was having some headaches that lasted. The headaches came after like the symptoms pretty much subsided. So I was getting really bad headaches as well. But some other symptoms that I had while I was dealing with this was nausea. So I wasn't throwing up or anything, but I could not get anything down. It was hard for me to even drink water. So for 14 days, I hadn't really eaten much and I was dehydrated. And so I was trying to get myself to drink, as much water as I could. I lost like a total of like 12 to 15 pounds. Because I just was malnourished, and it wasn't like a healthy weight loss. It was something that my body, like my stomach was hurting because I was getting really strong hunger pains. But I couldn't stomach anything. Like just looking at the food made me feel nauseous. And so it was really, really hard. Once my appetite finally came back, it made me feel a whole lot better just in general, because I was, getting more nourishment in my body. And I also had some of the other gastro symptoms that you have. I did have like the diarrhea for a few days. I know that might be TMI, I'm sorry, but it was a part of the process. I had I'm trying to think of what else. A really fast heart rate. Even at resting, my heart rate was like, my heart was pounding. When I went to the ER, that was one of the things that they said that they were borderline going to admit me for. My heart rate was like 110. And then they were able to get it down to like a 95 resting heart rate. So they didn't admit me, but any type of movement that I would do would cause my heart rate to go up to like 110. So that was kind of strange. And there were times where I'd be asleep and my heart would just start pounding and it would wake me up. Those were kind of like the biggest parts of what I dealt with, and then the anxiety, of course, because of all the horror stories that I had heard. And I just had to like kind of zone all of that out and really just focus on like being stress-free and being positive and just getting through it. It was the days I felt like went by so slow, and I was just counting down the hours and the days, and just trying to get through it. My mom's symptoms seemed like they were less severe than Nick and I, thank God, because she's my mom, so she's a little older than me, and I of course was really worried about her, and I was worried about Nick, and I was had anxiety for myself as well, so it was not an easy experience. And then I have my daughter. My daughter didn't have any symptoms, thank God, but I did have to, we all had to take turns taking care of her and chasing her around, because she just started walking, and so she's running around everywhere. So we kind of had to take turns chasing her around, and it was really, really hard. And she had to be in quarantine too, so it wasn't like I could just send her with a family member or anything like that. She was in quarantine because we were all sick and we didn't know if she had it and was asymptomatic. So they just advised for us to keep her in quarantine for 2 weeks as well. Nick had a harder time with all of this. After about 14 days, he thought he was doing okay, and then he was experiencing more shortness of breath, so we took him to the emergency room, and when they tested him, his blood oxygen level was at an 84. Your blood oxygen needs to be at 90 or higher to be considered normal. So his was at an 84, and they ended up admitting him into the hospital. And then after running a few tests, they found a blood clot in his lung. So they ended up transferring him to a hospital 45 minutes away to treat his blood clot, because they couldn't find a bed anywhere closer. So 45 minutes away, which ended up being a really good hospital. It was UCLA, and probably one of the best hospitals in California. So he was in good hands. They were able to treat his blood clot with blood thinners, so he didn't have to have the surgery, which was initially planned. So that was a good thing, was they were able to treat it with blood thinners. And after a 5-day stay in the hospital, they sent him home. They sent him home on oxygen, so they delivered an oxygen machine here to the house before he came home, and he was on oxygen for about a day or so before he was able to get off and breathe regularly on his own. But he had a harder experience with this whole thing. He is diabetic, so that is one thing that may have contributed to the difficulties that he had, and I'm asthmatic as well. So we did have our symptoms were considered moderate. Nick's might have been considered more moderate to severe. I don't think he was ever in the ICU, but he was, you know, in the hospital for 5 days. So I just wanted to make this video to help you to really understand what it is that, you know, people are going through, what we went through. I know there's a lot of other people going through it now, and you know, my heart goes out to all of you. Those of you who still think that, you know, this is a scam or, you know, whatever, I just want to tell you it really is not a scam. We had a really miserable 3 weeks. It did take about 3 weeks, and we're still recovering. It's been a month and we're still recovering, and we're no longer contagious, but you know, we still have those lingering symptoms. So I you know, just want to say, please stay safe. Please, you know, if you're around people, I would suggest wearing a mask. I mean, I don't know if it really helps or not, but I want to say that, you know, if it does, then it's worth it to you know, prevent yourself from getting this. You don't want to get it. It's no fun. And for those that have more mild symptoms or asymptomatic, I mean, thank God, because, you know, you were one of the lucky ones, and I know we were some of the lucky ones as well, because it didn't get as bad as it could have gotten. And so just, you know, wash your hands, be safe, practice, you know, cleanliness and social distancing, or, you know, whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. And thank you again to those of you who have reached out. And we are feeling, you know, mostly, for the most part, we're feeling better. And thank you, and take care.